Greetings, dear chosen ones. Today we gather not by coincidence, but by a greater call that resonates within our hearts. You who are here know that your life has always had a different flavor, a quest that goes beyond the ordinary. From an early age, you realized that you didn't fit into the patterns around you. There was something about you that couldn't be explained, a feeling of being a stranger in your own life, carrying questions and longings that others seemed not to understand. Deep down, your soul always knew there was something special destined for you. It's no accident that, since you were young, you looked at the world with eyes that saw beyond appearances. While others lived in the rhythm of superficiality, you felt a weight on your shoulders, a responsibility that you couldn't always explain. This maturity, which seemed to come from somewhere else, was not a mistake. It was a sign that you were called to something that transcends the ordinary. The childhood and youth of a chosen one are rarely easy. You faced struggles that seemed bigger than you could bear. Anxiety, fear, and the constant feeling of being out of place were part of your journey. There were moments when you wondered why you were different, why you couldn't simply fit in. Friends and family didn't see the world as you did. What was important to them often didn't make sense to you, and in this mismatch, you found solitude and misunderstanding. But what if these struggles were never a mistake? What if every challenge you faced was part of a necessary training? Every tear, every moment of doubt was shaping your soul. You were being prepared, polished like a diamond that goes through the fire. Without even realizing it, you were growing in wisdom, strength, and faith. Over time, something started to change within you. Slowly but steadily, a silent transformation took shape. You began to realize that your difference was not a burden, but a gift. God was working in your lives, even in the moments when you seemed most lost. He was calming the internal storms, bringing a peace that cannot be bought or explained. You started to take care of yourself in a new way. It wasn't just about appearance or vanity, but about honoring the body and soul that God gave you. You began to nourish your mind with thoughts of hope, your spirit with sincere prayers, and your body with the care it always deserved. This new way of living started to reflect outwardly. Today, when you look in the mirror, you see a new version of yourself. The aged appearance of someone who carried the weight of the world has been replaced by the glow of renewal. It's not that the problems disappeared, but you now know who you are and whom you trust. There is a calm that shows on your faces, a light that comes from the presence of God dwelling within you. People around you are beginning to notice something different. You are no longer those who get lost in the chaos of everyday life. Now, you are anchors of peace, even amid the storms. There is strength in your eyes, a confidence in your gestures that didn't exist before. And this doesn't go unnoticed. Some feel attracted to this change, while others may feel threatened. But this is part of the journey. You were called to be light in a world often immersed in darkness. Your presence is a living testimony of what God's grace can do. You are proof that even in the toughest situations, there is a way out. There is hope. Remain steadfast, dear chosen ones, for what God began in your lives, He is faithful to complete. As you move forward in your journeys, you look back and see the scars you carry, marks of a past that tried to define who you were. You remember the days when you felt lost, trapped in spirals of fear and anxiety, struggling to understand why you seemed different from everyone around you. You saw a reflection in the mirror that didn't match the image you had of yourself. It seemed that the person looking back carried more than your young body could bear. Each of these scars tells a story, not of defeat, but of resilience. The anxiety, the fear, the feeling of not belonging. All these intense emotions that you faced were parts of the path God used to shape you. You were thrown into the fire of life, and like gold purified by the flame, you were also refined. What once seemed like a burden has turned into strength, and what once seemed unbearable is now a memory of overcoming. Looking at these marks is no longer as painful as it once was. It is an act of recognition. You understand that the internal battles were not failures, but lessons that strengthened your faith and gave you clarity about who you really are. You have gone from feeling like victims of circumstances to being warriors who triumph over them, transforming pain into purpose. With each memory, you see God's care, guiding, protecting, and sustaining you even in moments when everything seemed lost. Over time, you realize that your identities were not lost, but merely dormant. This phase of rediscovery was not easy, as it meant leaving behind expectations, fears, and old beliefs that no longer served you. It was a process of rescuing the essence, a return to your true self, free of the masks the world tried to impose. You stopped seeking validation from external things and began to strengthen yourself in who God says you are. You began to connect with the true source of your identity, God. By distancing yourself from the noise around you, you began to hear the inner voice that had always been there, waiting to be heard. This return to your spiritual roots brought you peace, a sense of wholeness that nothing else could provide. You learned to love and care for yourselves, not as the world teaches, but as God teaches, with respect, honor, and gratitude for every part of who you are. And this rediscovery was more than just internal. It was reflected in how you live, how you present yourselves, and interact with the world. You stopped trying to fit into molds that were never made for you, and started to create your own paths, guided by the faith and truth that burn in your hearts. What was once a burden is now a crown of authenticity and freedom. Now you walk with a light that cannot be ignored. It's a different glow that doesn't fade with others' approval or with criticism. This light reflects the divine presence within you, the peace you found on your journeys, and the strength cultivated in the toughest moments. You no longer seek to be understood by everyone, for you know that not everyone is ready to understand what God has placed within you. This light attracts those who are also searching for something deeper, for a truth that transcends appearances. But at the same time, this light can also intimidate those still trapped in their own darkness. You will notice that while some will be inspired by your journey, others may feel uncomfortable or even threatened by the transformation you display. But none of this should divert you from your mission. Those who approach do so because they feel called to a similar transformation. They see in you a living example that it is possible to overcome internal struggles and find peace. For them, you are a beacon, a hope that there is something beyond suffering and confusion. But for others, who have not yet understood their own journey, your light will be like a mirror, reflecting everything they still need to face. You now understand that your journey is not just about your own victories, but about touching the lives of those still seeking answers. God didn't allow you to go through all of this for no reason. Every experience you've lived, every fall, and every restart now serve as a source of inspiration and wisdom for others. You have become voices of hope, living testimonies that divine grace can redeem even the darkest moments. The new purpose you embrace is not something you need to invent. It was already within you, waiting for the right moment to be activated. You were called to influence, to impact, and to transform not only your own lives, but also those of the people who cross your path. Every word you say, every act of kindness, and every demonstration of faith is a seed planted in someone's heart. This new purpose is about living authentically, knowing that the world needs what you carry. It's not about being perfect, but about being true. about reflecting God's light in a world that often lives in shadows. You are the hands, the feet, and the voices God uses to reach the lost, comfort the afflicted, and lift those who have fallen. You have reached a point in your journeys where your understanding of yourselves and the world around you has profoundly transformed. It's not just an external change, but a true internal awakening. You have learned to recognize the signs that God sends, to listen to the intuition that guides your steps, and to trust the gentle voice of the Holy Spirit that speaks to your heart. It's as if the veils that covered reality have been lifted, allowing you to see clearly the purpose of every experience lived. You understand that the choices you make daily have an eternal impact, not only on your lives, but also on those around you. The call you have answered is not static. It grows, expands, and touches other lives. You are like seeds planted in fertile soil, germinating and bearing fruits that will feed many. This is the legacy of the chosen ones, not living for themselves, but for the mission God has entrusted to you. You carry this strength in everything you do, whether in the way you treat people, how you face difficulties, or how you rise after a fall. Everything reflects God's presence in your lives. You are no longer defined by past failures or fears that once paralyzed you. On the contrary, these experiences are now seen as fuel to keep moving forward, to turn what was pain into purpose and what was failure into victory. The impact of this transformation goes beyond what you can imagine. Each step taken in faith, every word spoken in love, has the power to transform not only your life, but also those who watch your journey. You have become living examples that when God is in control, there is no limit to what can be achieved. And it is this strength that will continue to guide you, even on the darkest days. As you advance, what is left behind is not just a story of struggles, but a legacy of overcoming and faith. This legacy is not made of material things, but something far more valuable: the transformation of lives. You leave a mark on the hearts of everyone who has the privilege of knowing your story. This is the true impact of the chosen ones, being light amidst darkness and hope for those still searching for the way. Your legacy is also an invitation to others. Seeing the transformation God has worked in you, many people will feel inspired to seek their own journey of faith and self-discovery. You become bridges that link the world to eternity, living witnesses that it is possible to start over, even when everything seems lost. This legacy is built not just with great deeds, but with small acts of kindness, words of encouragement, and the constant presence for those in need. You were chosen to impact, to transform, and to leave a trail of light that will shine for generations. You know that storms will still come, but now you have the peace that surpasses all understanding. Trust in God makes you walk with your head held high, knowing that He goes before you, opening paths where there were none before. You have learned to trust the process, to see every challenge as a chance to demonstrate the faith and fortitude that God has planted in your hearts. This future is a land of new opportunities. You were called to go beyond what you ever imagined, to reach heights that are only possible with God's hand on your lives. And even if difficulties arise, you know they are part of a greater plan, a plan being designed by the Creator of the universe. You are living witnesses that God's transformation has no end. He will continue to mold you, guide you, and use you to impact the world. Do not worry about what is to come, for God is already there, preparing the way and taking care of every detail. You are loved, strengthened, and sustained by a force that never fails. You have discovered throughout this journey that true strength does not lie in the absence of challenges, but in the ability to rise after every fall. Being chosen does not mean living a life free of pain or adversities. On the contrary, the greatest battles are often fought within you, in silence. But it is precisely in these struggles that divine strength manifests most powerfully. You have learned that every obstacle, no matter how painful, served to strengthen your faith, refine your character, and align your steps with God's purpose. You are no longer defined by past mistakes, by the doubts that once consumed you, or by moments of weakness. Each time you felt small, God was preparing the ground for your true strength to emerge. Now, you no longer bend before difficulties. You face them head-on, knowing you are not alone. The true strength of the chosen one is the unshakable faith that regardless of circumstances, God is present, guiding, sustaining, and renewing hope. Amid your individual journeys, you have also discovered the value of communion with other chosen ones. God did not call you to walk alone, but to be part of a community that shares the same faith and challenges. Unity is a precious gift, and the strength you find in each other is a reflection of God's love. You have learned that supporting and being supported is one of life's greatest gifts. In moments of weakness, the encouraging word of a brother or sister can be the breath of life that renews strength. You become mirrors of each other, reflecting God's presence in your lives, strengthening faith, and walking side by side, even when the path is tough. Communion among the chosen ones is a demonstration of the power of unity. Together, you pray, cry, celebrate, and share victories, knowing that God is present in every interaction, in every hug, and every comforting word. It is through this unity that you find the courage to move forward, knowing you are not alone, and that the body of Christ is a constant support. Reaching this point is a constant reminder that the transformation God performs is not passive. It manifests in action. Your faith is not just a feeling, but an active force that moves mountains, transforms environments, and touches hearts. You are not called to be spectators, but protagonists of the story God is writing through you. Each day, you choose to act based on the faith you have. Your decisions, big and small, reflect the commitment to the divine purpose. The way you respond to challenges, treat those around you, and live your daily lives are silent but powerful testimonies of the transformation that has occurred in your hearts. No journey of the chosen ones would be possible without deep intimacy with God. It is in the quiet of prayer, in moments of worship, and meditation on the Word that you find direction, comfort, and strength to continue. This intimacy is what keeps the flame burning, what renews hope, and makes each step guided by the Holy Spirit. You know that without this daily connection with God, everything else would lose its meaning. True transformation begins in the heart, and it is in this secret place with God that you are renewed each day. It is where you find answers to doubts, where you shed your tears, and where you experience peace the world cannot offer. This intimacy is the foundation upon which everything is built. When the world around seems to crumble, you know you can retreat into God's presence and find the refuge you need. This is the greatest weapon of the chosen ones, not physical strength, but profound communion with the Creator. And it is this connection that keeps you unshakable, even when everything around seems uncertain. You have come this far, after a long and intense journey, a path that began long ago, in childhood, when you felt different, carrying a wisdom that many around you could not understand. You remember the days when you looked in the mirror and did not recognize yourself. You felt like ancient souls trapped in young bodies, desperately trying to fit into a world that never seemed to understand you. This feeling of being out of place, carrying an invisible weight that others did not see, has always been a hallmark of your identity. Since you were little, you observed the world with eyes that seemed to have lived far beyond your years. This deep perception, This sense of not belonging was a reflection of your chosen soul, a soul that God set apart for a special purpose. You always carried a maturity that didn't match your age, and this was evident in the way you spoke, thought, and even in your appearance. There was a sadness in your eyes that told stories of internal struggles, sleepless nights, and silent battles that no one else could see. You were like invisible warriors, fighting wars that others didn't even notice. Over time, these internal struggles left visible marks on your bodies. You felt older than you were, as if the soul was trying to manifest on the outside. Perhaps when you were younger, you did not understand why you carried a weight that others did not. The tired appearance, the worries that seemed premature, all were part of an identity being shaped by God. For a long time, you fought against this feeling. You tried to adapt, changed your style, the way you spoke, the way you dressed, all to try to fit in. But nothing seemed right. The clothes never seemed to reflect who you really were, and the internal discomfort mirrored the way you presented yourselves. You were living a conflict between the soul that cried for freedom and the body that tried to fit the world's expectations. But slowly, the transformation began. You started to accept yourselves, recognizing that what made you different was, in fact, your greatest strength. God began to heal the invisible wounds, calm the internal storms, and bring peace to restless hearts. With this peace came a change that was not just spiritual but also physical. You began to see yourselves differently, to appreciate the reflection in the mirror as living proof of overcoming. You rediscovered yourselves. What once seemed like an aged appearance now shines with the light of renewal. You started to look younger, not because you tried to hide the scars, but because you embraced them as symbols of a battle won. The identity that once seemed lost is now clearer than ever. You are chosen ones, spiritual warriors who faced internal chaos and emerged stronger on the other side. Today, when you look in the mirror, you no longer see just the battle scars, but the glow of inner strength, purpose, and the presence of God dwelling in you. You are the reflection of divine grace, which took every pain and transformed it into beauty, which used every tear to water the soil of a fertile soul ready to bloom. Now you live with the confidence of those who know who they truly are, loved, chosen, and transformed by God's hand. You are like ancient trees with deep roots, yet blooming with the renewal of spring. While the world sees only the outer bark, marked by storms and seasons, your essence remains ever young and vibrant. You do not age like others. On the contrary, each passing day rejuvenates the soul and further illuminates the light you carry within. You are old in wisdom, but young in spirit, carrying a light that defies time and reveals that true youth lies in the eternal connection with God. The world may have seen your scars, but now it sees the glow those scars left behind. Your appearance reflects the journey of a soul that found its true identity in God, an identity that was never about trying to fit in, but about standing out. You were created to be different, and that difference is what makes you a living testimony of God's transformative power. Continue to walk with this certainty, for your identity is a divine gift that no challenge can steal.